Prince William has reportedly held a crisis meeting with aides as he plans to modernise the monarchy. The future of the royal family and the Commonwealth came under scrutiny after the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's tour of the Caribbean, which was almost overshadowed by backlash and protests over colonialism and slavery from a minority.
Yes.
While the royals have had a difficult few years, the sudden departure of Prince Harry and Meghan, of course, and all the furore around that, Prince Andrew's out-of-court settlement in a sex abuse case, and, of course, the death of their grandfather, the Duke of Edinburgh, last year.
Yes, indeed. Well, joining us now is Richard Fitzwilliams, royal commentator. Richard, obviously, it has been a very difficult period for the royals, hasn't it? I think, should we start with some of the good news and then talk about some of the bad news? So Meghan Markle's been biffed by Netflix, hasn't she? Talk to me about that.
Well, it follows, this was a deal in 2020, and it was estimated by the New York Times that the Sussexes would get $100 million from a deal with Netflix, and they'd be producing a variety of programs, and so far they haven't produced much. The Heart of Invictus, which will follow competitors at Harry's games, which, credit to him, he did extremely well and founded that. That is out soon, but Meghan had the intention of producing an animated series based on influential women about a girl, Pearl, who was inspired by them, and that has now been shelved because Netflix they face dire forecasts. Their shares have been in free fall. It's somewhat of a crisis. It was unexpected. Now, the question must be, what precisely will they want from the royal couple, given the fact that they've only producing one series, and that is on Invictus. What else? Perhaps something military from Harry, I merely suggest, or Meghan was a thespian, possibly something along that line. Facts are that they were very pleased to have royals, and also, of course, they produced The Crown, which is a very variable merit, I would add, and there are things seriously wrong with it, but it does very well commercially. So you must ask, what will they demand or ask, and whether it's something with royal input. This would be very, very hypersensitive, and it's not at all clear how the couple could deliver.
No. There was a really interesting point that Prince Harry... Well, I have to say this with a pinch of salt. There was a really interesting point that Prince Harry made in that Oprah interview where he did actually say, look, Meghan Markle, of course, essentially as a black woman, as it were, could have actually played a role in the royal family, and certainly when it comes to things like the Caribbean tours. We've seen accusations there, really, of, it's not gone down too well with the locals, I suppose you could say. Maybe this is an argument that... There is an argument to say that they had a point there, actually, that Meghan Markle could have been a good ambassador for the royal family abroad in certain countries, and that isn't going to happen now.
Oh, well, there is no question at all that the departure of the Sussexes was disastrous for the royal family, because the potential, especially given the fact that they had such appeal to young people, and especially also given the fact that the vast majority of people in the Commonwealth are young and are persons of colour, but the fact that Meghan was a person of colour, that she was a divorcee, that she's American and a former actress, but she, I thought, knew the ropes as far as anyone could. Of course, that proved wrong, but the facts were that the potential there was marvellous, and of course Harry was so popular, and the brothers, we thought, were absolutely inseparable. How wrong we all were.
Indeed.
And just very finally, we mentioned there in the introduction that Prince William could modernise the monarchy. I just wanted to know, what does modernising the monarchy mean exactly in practice? I don't particularly think it needs to be modernised. It has a lot of support, but what would that look like if it was?
Well, this is just simply a phrase that's been employed in articles to make it clear that they absorbed some of the lessons of the Caribbean tour. When William says he won't automatically be head of the Commonwealth, the point is there is no other head of the Commonwealth, practically speaking. You couldn't have the Secretary-General, he's just a bureaucrat, and if you had a rotating head, you could have a dictatorship such as Sri Lanka or the Gambia. That wouldn't work at all. So it's got to be the British monarch. In reality, if the Commonwealth is to continue with the precise sort of meaning that it has, I know it's quite a loose association of 54 states. So far as what William might actually plan to do, I mean, that's a matter for the future. But of course, every monarch has their own style and has their own priorities. But there is, of course, the constitutional aspect, and that is not likely to change that much.
All right, Richard, thank you very much. Good stuff. That Richard Fitzwilliams, royal expert, royal commentator, whizzing you through what has been a big week of news for the royals.